Well, hello, everyone. The Divine Lux Soul Podcast is back in session. Let's just say that. We took a little recess yesterday, and now we're back. Calling in all the Divine Lux Soul jury. I just thought about that before I put this video on. You guys are the jury here. I'm going to empower all of my listeners and subscribers out there. You guys are the jury. I've been building the case about the Nomad and the industrial list or the industrial bodies. And, just to catch you guys up if you haven't been paying attention or watching this series, we started with the opening arguments to where I introduced differences between the nomadic body and the industrial body. And then my last episode before this, or the previous two episodes before this one, I talked about the nomad and how our nomadic ancestors were living. And then just for the evidence, to put the evidence out there for the jury to listen to and understand. And then we talked about the transition from nomadic lifestyles into more of a temporary villages lifestyle where we became hunters and gatherers. And then eventually the agricultural revolution, that they're calling it in the historical books, started this journey of a sedentary lifestyle. We moved into the cities. We moved into a set pattern. We were no longer living with the seasons or living with Mother Nature and the animals and the plants. We were growing it ourselves, and we started these hierarchy societies. So we had a priest caste, a monarchy, and we just went down from there and created these social structures in our societies to where people began to rely on each other for different products. Anyway, and then we went into the age of discovery by the Europeans and how that was incepted and how their dietary, let's say, pinnacles of what luxury was imprinted on the indigenous tribes that they came in contact with in the New World, and then we all downloaded it, did the best we could to spin it into our ancestral food, but it became something different, which is what most of us are eating still to this day. And then today's episode, we're continuing the journey of how we got to this industrial self out here. And we're going to pick up with History 3.0, which I'm calling it the Industrial Revolution. And the reason why we need to talk about the Industrial Revolution is because it is the main catalyst on how humans transitioned from the farmland to city life, from city life to sitting on our sofas, sitting on our couches, and not moving the way we were designed to move from our nomadic past. And I want to say the Industrial Revolution, we can say, started in 1760 in Europe. Let's just say that. And then we can say we went into the 1840s. That was the peak of the revolution. And then around the 1850s and 60s, it started to become a interwoven fabric into our lives. And then by the 1870s, 80s, and 90s, we moved into the robber baron age, or the Gilded Age, as they say, to where these companies were making millions and billions of dollars even back in those days, and they weren't distributing the wealth between the workers and the people who owned the companies. And then we're going to dive into the modern era of the 20th century and how everything shook down. And before we get into content, everyone, the jury out there, the divine jury, like, subscribe, check out my video library. There's a ton of it out there these days. We have a whole year's worth of material. So again, guys, please like, subscribe, tell me in the comments what you guys think about the content. And yeah, let's just get into the trial. So, just like I mentioned, the Industrial Revolution really started around 1760. More so in like England and maybe Western Europe, it started and it kind of spread from there. Um, the factory days started, meaning that when it was first incepted, there were like 8, 10, 12, 16. Some factories worked 19 hours a day, their workers. And this is where the transition from farm life, feudal life, or whatever else people were doing out there, they were drawn to these big city jobs or factory jobs because the factory owners offered people a steady paycheck. And this is how they started to take people from what they were doing before into the city, only because what they were doing before wasn't a guarantee as a paycheck. And this was the industrial, mindset on how to get people into the factory system. And it worked because people were getting a paycheck or, getting paid every day, every week, every 2 weeks, every month. It was steady work. It was steady payment. It wasn't the best work conditions because they were still figuring out machinery, but people were coming in the thousands, let's just say that, to work in factories. And the factory system started to expand. The days got longer. Factory workers were not particularly represented well. They were often used by corporations back in those days, still am today. Even though we do have some unions and some legal protections out there. When this was first incepted, there was no legal representation for workers. They were just used by the system until they were hurt. Once they were hurt, they were no longer used to these industrialists. So that's why I wanted to work in this this segment into the evidence that we're building here about the downside of industry. Yes, it did move us forward. It did move humanity forward, as in making soaps cheaper, making deodorants cheaper, making perfumes cheaper, clothing, furniture. What else was being made? Cotton was being spun quicker. Silk was being spun quicker. The printed word of books were being produced faster. We eventually moved into cars and steel and so you guys see where I'm going with this. It moved us along, but it also, with that progress, started the food production, meaning that they were bringing in meats, produce, and other things that they could think of and putting it into these packages for the workers to eat because they wanted them at their stations all the time. So again, the long work day started, this work till you die ideology was incepted back in those days, which still is here in America and other parts of the world. But I think we're slowly rejecting this. This is not the way to live, but this is the way it went down for a very long time. And this is not, it was incepted. I think a lot of people think that this was an accidental thing. It wasn't. These industrialists hired psychologists to tell them how to do this, tell them how to seduce the factory worker into thinking that they are going to stay longer, produce more for the company, eventually get ahead, and live these prosperous lives. But as we talked about in the previous episodes about health is real wealth, is when you're succeeding and giving your all to these industrial corporations, you leave yourself bankrupt, meaning that a lot of these people went from highly mobile lives into more sedentary lives, meaning they gave their all to the corporation for, let's say, 16 hours that day. There's no time for you to go do anything besides go home, rest, eat, maybe play with the kids, go to sleep, and get up and do it again. So this is the time frame of how this industrial society, how this industrial psyche started. And again, guys, it always starts with a generation's decision. And then once that decision goes through, as always, it just gets passed down without a question that this is the way we do things. This is how we make progress. Work till you die. Work, 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 work. And I would say this too, guys. That mindset kills dreams. Meaning that, yeah, a company is going to offer you, let's say 30 grand, 60 grand, 100 grand, maybe go into 200 grand a year. And for doing something, for working for them. And we often give up on our own dreams. We often give up on our own bodies. We give up on our own selves just for this paycheck. And again, this is not by accident, everyone. I did not work that. That wasn't in my show notes, but I had to work that in there anyway. So that being said, everyone, making the transitions from farms into these cities. The cities were not equipped at that time, back in the 17 and early 1800s, with the influx of people. What happened? The apartments that they were building were very cheap and quick, and people were living on top of each other. It was very cramped quarters. You used to have, 2, 3 families living in, a space together, sharing it and going to work. And the parents come home. So again, guys, this is how this cramped dwelling lifestyle started, which in turn, with those many people living in a space together, you don't have the space to exercise because again, tiny little space, cramped spaces, and then the conditions outside aren't very good. It's very toxic. Let's just say that the waste from the factories are toxic, and then the smog from the factories are very toxic. So people start to stay indoors. So again, guys, this is where the inception of the sedentary lifestyle started, was out of survival. As always in humanity, we start things out of survival, and this is how that sedentary lifestyle, in my opinion, coming to you as a court reporter, started. And again, those long work days began, and again, that immobility set in, and then the foods that we once obtained change, meaning, we went from eating things from the farm, fresh from the farm, because again, a lot of our ancestors worked the farms. We went from that to having a factory make it for us, meaning, let's say they took corn and manufactured it, put some other stuff in it and put it into a can, and now you can just open it and dump it out, and now you have something to eat quickly. Or beans or chilies. And we can start expanding to other things, but this is the inception of how the food production started. Quick, easy, so the people won't have to savor the food anymore. They're just going to quickly eat it in 5 minutes and get back to work. And especially here in America, that happens a lot more than not. People are, in my opinion, stuck in an industrial mindset, and they don't even know where it came from. But I'm going to tell you guys this today. It came from schooling. I'm going to say it. This is my channel. This industrialness came from schooling. Why do I say that? It's because, if you guys remember, you go to school for 8 hours a day. You sit around for 8 hours a day. You might have 1 hour of PE or physical education. And then you're right back to it. And then you might get 30 minutes for lunch. What does that spell out, guys? That is a typical workday that they were setting us up for at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years of age. So again, guys, you got to start thinking about how all this was incepted, or bring about an awareness about how this was all taught to us, that this is the way of life. This is the adult way to do it. This is the more sensible way to do it. And then, factor it with a steady paycheck. People start signing their lives away to get the steady 2-week monthly paycheck. That was not in my show notes, but that is what came out of me. So that's what I want the jury, for you guys to bring awareness to as I'm talking to you today, is like this is generations of programming that we must hit that button and say, stop, I'm not doing that, and find another way to evolve yourselves out of this trained industrial mindset. And that's another thing that started during the Industrial Revolution is schooling for kids. Before that, kids went to school, the rich ones went to school. The ones that didn't have money for schooling, they stayed at home with their parents. And then when they got to a certain age, I'm going to say this too, the reason why there's child labor laws is a lot of kids worked in factories. I forgot to tell you guys that. So that is another very dark side of the industrial system is they didn't care if you were a boy, girl, man, or woman, as long as you had a heartbeat and working hands and arms and feet, you were useful to them. When you didn't have any of that stuff, goodbye, see you later, without a pension. Again, that was another thing was my show notes. There weren't any pensions back in those early days of the industrial period. And that is pretty much what I want to say about the Industrial Revolution is it started the factory production of the work productivity. It started a sedentary lifestyle. It started the long work days. It started that work till you die mindset. And then it gave people a false sense of stability, meaning they had a paycheck, which was cents on the dollar. The way these companies were making a lot of money, they were only paying these people $1 or $2 a day for all that hard work. And then also with the industry making new leaps and bounds with the workers, they were able to, yes, we were able to produce quicker, faster, and cheaper. But again, it came at the cost of the workers losing their humanity, losing their mobility, all to make the company money. And also, once it is to everyone, it started the industrial food production of today. It wasn't much of a food production industry back when it first started. It got bigger over time, but the fact that it started with that generation let the industrialists know that, okay, they eat this factory food. How else can we expand into the food factory production? And we're going to talk about how they pretty much did that. So, like I said, guys, the Industrial Revolution, the peak of it was in the 1850s. We went into a Gilded Age that was not only in America, but in all Western societies. I'm going to say this too. Most of Europe was functioning of mercantilism, which means there's a monarchy, there's a merchant class that was pretty much close to royalty because they made so much money. But with mercantilism, it was a different, laws around it. It wasn't a winner-take-all kind of a frame in Europe. America changed the game. With capitalism, the Americans started winner takes all, meaning the CEO or the owner of a company takes all the money and takes all the winnings. Let's just say that. So if you had an idea back in those days, you got it patented, you made a factory, and then, you got all the sales, you were the boss of how much the workers got, how much the workers made, how many people you made. And if your business went under, if it was your company that you started, you could screw the whole entire workforce, fire everybody, and run off with all the money that you had left. So here, guys, lies why we have so many different laws in America, especially against capitalism, because we do have that winner take all. And then also here in America, they do consider corporations as a separate entity or a separate person. That's the reason why, if you guys haven't noticed it or not, that's the reason why there used to be, now it's very merged. Companies function differently from the government. Like I said, guys, a mercantilism in Europe, it was very much different. It was very much one and the same. But here in America, we decided that corporations are individual people or individual beings, and then the U.S. government was separately. But like I said, guys, over time, these people started to merge together only because the capitalists were making more money than U.S. government. That wasn't my notes, but that was a very important topic on how we got to this point, especially here in America. And then America tried to tell other countries how to be capitalists, and this is just not working across the planet. It's a disaster. I hope we evolve out of this. It just doesn't make any sense. But here's the industrial evidence to the divine jury. The industrial evidence is, like I said, we passed the Gilded Age. We went into the 1900s. We had World War One. Once we all climbed out of that mess and muck of World War One, we started the 1920s. And the reason why I wanted to bring up the 1920s is because it was really how the modern day production of industry started, meaning factories were in use from Boston to Los Angeles and in between. There was an oil boom. There was a steel boom. Pittsburgh was making a ton of steel. There was a coal boom. The further we went out west, we were finding gold and silver and copper. Anything else you can think of, natural petroleum, regular petroleum. Natural gas, petroleum. We were finding it everywhere. So that's what I mean, guys, by, the industry of capitalism really took off. Corporate America really took off. And with all of this production, people were too busy in the factories, and the factory owners came to corporations like Kraft, Mill. Who else was there? There's a few other. Kellogg's has started up in the Midwest. Pillsbury. They came to these different corporations that were starting up these little mom and pop little factories, and they said, how can we make food more relatively cheaper and available for the factory workers, because we cannot have them going home for lunch and then coming back an hour or two later. So that's when these people started to get to work. The brilliant minds wanted to make money, because like I said, guys, corporations here in America are a separate entity, it's a separate being. So the reason why these corporations are so successful is because they came up with new technology. Cereals is nothing but popcorn. It took a chemist a while to figure out how to pop it, but the way they were doing it in the factory was revolutionary at the time. And then oatmeal started to become more of a staple product, and then we started to produce those things. And at first, people were not really eating it. It was a really hard sell, because like I said, guys, before the 1900s, a lot of people didn't eat breakfast. They didn't have the time for it. Excuse me. If they did eat breakfast, it was something small, like bread and butter or something else, or milk, a sandwich or whatever. It wasn't like it is today. But like I said, guys, with these new technologies coming along and these other, let's say, corporate giants wanted people at their station more sooner than later, this is how this all got started to get interwoven into society. So when there is food production, when there is industrial production pretty much going on 24/7, there was a time there were different shifts that were cranking out cars, clothing, furniture, bikes, you name it, it was coming out of factory, like back to back, back to back. That included cereals, oats, and other packaging. We started to have sardines and packaged meats and With all that being said, guys, the America had a problem. When we don't have a problem, right? There was too much product sitting around and people were not buying it. So what did the food industry do? They started to introduce the grocery store to people, because at that time, guys, people were going to local grocery stores to go shopping, but the inception of the supermarket started during the 1920s and went through the whole decade. And another thing that started during the 1920s, like I said, was a supermarket. And then the advertising agencies started up. The reason why this is so important to 1920s Art Deco culture is because they could take anything and sell it. see. Yeah. We could take, I don't know why I slowed down. They could take anything and sell it, meaning cereals that you guys can think of um, came out, like cornflakes, let's just say, for example. Oatmeals, Quaker Oats, they started up back in the 1920s for really making it popular. Instant pancakes started up during the 1920s. Egg production started up. Bacon, chicken, pork, um, orange juice, other juices was pretty much condensed and canned for people to make at home. They took other meats out from the farms and put them into different cans for people to eat. And again, cake mix was started up. Pies were getting the light of day. People were taking their grandparents' recipes and turning it into gold for themselves. Frostings were created. Biscuits were created. Grits were created. Again, guys, this is how the instant society of America started, was back in that 1920 phase. Like I said, they were having so many different inventions coming online. They needed someone to push these products to. And who is the best one? The factory workers, guys. This is, again, hopefully this is shedding light on how this all went down in American history. Again, guys, factories were working overtime to produce these different items. And again, they convinced people to work 24/7 pretty much. And they needed these quick little food items to eat and then go back to work. And again, guys, this is a generation's decision that has affected American fabric society for almost a century or more than a century. And again, guys, is going unchecked. Hopefully now in this new year that we can all start getting together and uncheck it. It's not right. It's not okay, like Whitney said. And we can start living more healthier, robust lives when we stop believing in this industrial system. And also, guys, with before the Great Depression, again, what really led to it was this overproduction. People weren't really buying into it. Some people were, some people weren't. And then also, people were living on credit, meaning that they were outliving their factory paychecks that they were getting, and they were just functioning on credit. And around 1928, around 1929, all the boys on Wall Street decided to start calling in all the credit. People didn't have it. Companies didn't have it. Industrial factories didn't have it. It was like this fake system of money that was just existing in this virtual world that no one could touch, and then everything just crashed because everyone was calling in debts and no one had the money to pay for it. So that's initially how the Great Depression really started. And with the Great Depression, we started to see factories shut down. People, as you guys know, literally lost everything overnight. Then the Dust Bowl popped up only because the industrial farmers of the 1920s completely stripped the land, meaning, let's say you only grew corn for almost 7 or 8 years. You never replenished the soil. You never replenished it with another product. You were just going and going and going and using the land to make profit. And herein lies how the Great Dust Bowl of the 1930s came along. Is because they were using so many heavy fertilizers and again, just using the land that they totally forgot to replenish it. And then again, the land gave out, which means the factory system gave out. That's how this works when we use Mother Earth. Again, guys, people were going hungry because they were so used to city life. They forgot how to farm. They forgot how to make their own food. Some people were still in the outskirts of town. They survived. But for the most part, as you guys saw with all the long lines and pictures of the Great Depression, you really see how people were really dependent on not only the factory, but they were also dependent on each other too much. And they were also way too dependent on the U.S. government to bail them out, which is, we see that happening, especially last 5 years ago during COVID. The same thing happened in 2020 that we saw back in 1929, 1930. So again, guys, we don't know our history repeats itself. So once again, guys, not to get too much into it, Great Depression hit. People were hungry. People were literally out there trying to scratch out a living, find any job available. Corporations and companies were still manufacturing, but in not the same capacity that they were doing. Unfortunately, the way things go down is wars is a way to kickstart production. Meaning, in 1939, as you guys know, Hitler was spewing out his hate. That monster machine started up in Germany, started to push itself out and dominate Western Europe, which dragged Europe into World War II, 1941, 1942. The Americans were dragged into it only because of Pearl Harbor out there in Hawaii. And once we got involved into the whole war, things started to change. So anyway, long story short, people had to go back to work to make bullets, tanks, helicopters, make steel again. Food production went back into production because you had to feed the soldiers. People or men went into the war because the government had money still, and they were giving it out. So why not do all this stuff? And then again, guys, this is how the American system restarted itself, was with the inception or with the joining of the Allied force in World War II. And I'll say this too, guys, the climax of it, 1945, not getting too much into it, we started to, the factory system came back online. Forgot to say this too, I just saw this. Women, this is why I like to involve women in my talks. Women were the one holding it down. If you guys don't know about this or not, women were the ones making the bullets, bolting on steel plates on the tanks. They were making the ropes. They were making the wheels. They were making flight decks. They were welding. They were manufacturing still. All because, yes, there were men still hanging around, but most of the men were off abroad fighting the war. So again, guys, women are just as capable to work and make products. They just don't want to tell women that too, so they can be empowered too. But I'm saying it today to the Divine Lux Soul. That being said, everyone, after the war was over, everyone celebrated. Industry was back. The boys of New York, Chicago, LA, all got together and said, well, we're back. How are we going to now? Let's in the factory work. Let's in steel production, or not steel production. Let's in war production, and let's turn our factories back into what it was before. Like people like Mattel, they actually made, if you believe it or not, they made war items during the war, but after the war, they went back to toys. This is how Kraft and Kellogg's and Pillsbury, Aunt Jemima, who else was a food giant that I could think of? Foster Farms started up during that time period and a little before that, but they came back into it later on. So why am I saying all this stuff, guys? It's because these people were feeding the soldiers, and now the factories needed people to work in. And the finance people said, this is a good opportunity to do this. Why? Because there was a baby boom. Yeah, guys, after the war, people got married, started having kids. So they said this is the perfect time to restart the American system and start the manufacturing of clothing, cars. Let's take that back. Luxury clothing, luxury cars. What's it called? Ready-to-made food dinners, ready-to-made breakfasts, ready-to-made lunches, sandwiches. They started making high-end shoes and stockings, and those big Dior dresses were coming out that time period. So what am I saying for all those guys? It's because these people were intently this time using the human psyche to say, this is upward mobility. This is what upward mobility looks like. So instead of people going from farms this time, like we did back in the Industrial Revolution, the American Revolution, people went from, little, let's say, shanty towns, little small towns, little farms here and there, and they moved back into the cities. Or city dwellers were coming into really high-end jobs, and now they were moving into the suburbs because, like I said, guys, during the Great Depression, the what's it called? The downtowns in America were just corrupted. It was just a hot mess. No one wanted to live there anymore, and the rich just wanted to take flight into the suburbs. And again, guys, like I said, whatever the rich do, let's say the middle class wants to do the same thing. So that's where the suburb. So you guys see where we're going with this. This is how industry really started taking over in America. And then corporate jobs started at that time. Working from 9 to 5 started. So not only were, manufacturing items coming off the factory line left and right, but we also had a baby boom. We also had a income boom. America was really coming back into and beyond in this time period in 1945, 1950s. And again, they learned from the last, what's it called? From the 1920s that you can't just make products and put it out there. You have to make products and sell it to people. What do I mean by sell it? Again, these industrial giants went to the boys in advertising agencies and said, how do we sell breakfast food? How do we sell lunch to people? How do we sell a glamorous dinner to these new people with this quote unquote upward mobility wealth that they've started? And then herein lies where we got the breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Not to say it all came from advertising, but I would say 80% of it came from advertising. Why? Because they put, and I'm just going to say it, guys, they put these clean, wholesome looking couples and kids with blonde hair, blue eyes, maybe brown hair. Maybe the wife is wearing this really pretty, let's say, gown. The man's dressed up in this 3-piece suit, hair slicked back. The kids look perfect, one boy, one girl, and a dog. Guys, this wasn't by chance that this happened. They were giving people the illusion of a glamorous consumer life. And again, this is where consumerism in America started, is because with these ads, people were saying, oh, this is how we need to have breakfast. Oh, this is how we need to have lunch. Oh, this is how we need to have dinner. And then also with all that, guys, is these people were taking food that the rich ate, manufacturing it at a cheap rate, meaning they had cheap cuts of meat, and they sold it to the people at the time as this is the rich man's food. But it's for, $2.99, buy a $2.99 dinner, eat like a king. And this is how this is all incepted, in my opinion. So again, guys, through advertising was American consumerism born. Why? Companies have to make money. They have to expand. And when people are not buying food or not buying clothing or whatever the product is, the company's not expanding. So they have to push the product on the people. And like again, guys, they use sexy ads and sexy posters and sleek, clean people, models, to sell people the American dream. And I want to say this too, guys, that American dream is gone. It was never there. It was just another idea that people bought into, that this was the American dream, to consume everything. You buy a house, you get the fanciest car, you have the white picket fence, you have the 2.5 kids, you get the dogs, you put the kids in dance, and you have vacation home here, you go golfing there, and you're buying the latest dress for your wife, and you're buying 3-piece suits for you, and you have the newest, latest face cream and weight loss cream and weight loss gym, whatever they were selling people at that time. Guys, this is how the American system of consumerism started. And it's become such a, I hate to say, monster or interwoven fabric into American society, is that people don't even realize what they're doing. And also, I'm gonna say this too again, this is how Christmas was particularly pushed was through at the post World War II era here in America. Why? Again, production. Whatever production these people didn't have, or let's say inventory left over, instead of, like I said, guys, from the previous 1920s, they didn't have all this stuff during that time. But in that post World War II era, the inventory was left over. That means discount sales. And then they needed a way to get it over to people to start buying. How do they start doing that? Give your loved one the gift of a new car, a new diamond ring. What else? Buy your love this, Christmas dinner, whatever. I'm trying to think of something else that's cute. Shoes for the kids, stocking stuffers. This is how this was all incepted, into American culture that other countries really don't have, but we have it here. And hopefully, again, guys, this is how this happened. And like I said, guys, this was overnight. It happened overnight to that post-World War II generation. They made that choice to say, this is the way to progress. This is how we're going to make more money. And, like I said, guys, move upward into the higher societies. And this is how it went down. Now, I'm going to say this too, guys. Other cultures were trying to get a piece of the pie. And the companies didn't want people to feel left out, like black and brown people and other ethnicities. So they started selling the stuff to them as well, using, again, more sleek, sexy models and actors to make these products sell. And it worked, like I said, guys. And like I said, mentioned before, I'm retouching on it again. The American breakfast campaigns began. Like I said, guys, people before the war, during the war, really didn't have breakfast. But post-war, did these companies start these commercials with, scientifically proven to start your day with banana. It's good for the kids to have cereal before going to school. It's good to have eggs because, some scientists, which they made up at that time, said this was the best thing to do. Or have bacon, eggs, and let's say grits for breakfast. This is a well-rounded breakfast. And they also promoted steak as having all these different vitamins in it so kids can grow, again, guys, and people too. Again, this is how steaks are going to be infused into our diets, was through this programming from industry to tell people, eat steak and eggs and potatoes every morning, and this is how you're going to live your day. Be successful during your day. Well, guys, problem is like when you have so much industry producing this food, you wake up in the morning, you're going to eat. You go to work, you're going to eat. Then you let you off for lunch. What are you going to do? You're going to go eat. You might have a midday snack at work, and then you come home. Let's say the wife has made her husband cocktails and stuff and dinner for the kids. Now you're eating another pot roast and, potatoes and meatloaf or whatever else, and mashed potatoes and, all this, and have dessert. Forgot about that. The dessert industry took off at our time. So again, guys, this is really where one generation's decision to be sold on a illusion American dream started to fester. It started to grow. Sorry about that. It started to grow. It started to become a bigger thing. And then now it's an unchecked system here in America to where people are debating whether, veganism, vegetarianism is a choice, or is being a carnivore what we need to be doing, or it is the standard. And I'm here to tell you guys this too, guys. You got to start understanding your history. Then this is why I put this into the episode, is because when you understand how things went down historically, can you start to understand how diets and how eating habits was born out of all of those products of industry, what generations ago decided to do for progress has transformed into a modern day um, age of, killing us sooner than later. And this is why the average age for, an American has gone down to 65, maybe 70 in most cases, because, like I said, guys, we are eating too much. I'm going to say that. Americans and other people across the planet who are, let's say, industrialized or in a consumer culture, we're eating way too much. And like I said, guys, it's because of this programming from advertising that this all went down. And it went down so smoothly. Like I said, guys, nobody really paid attention to it. No one really said this is not the right way. Again, it was just a way to say, I'm finally making the money now. Honey, let's go get a steak. I'm finally making the money now, honey. Let's get a pot roast. Honey, let's go on have a fish dinner. Let's have a surf and turf dinner with the kids one night. What else did we do? Let's go have cocktails and desserts one day. Guys, all this stuff was, again, repackaged as sleek, sexy, and the American dream. And this is how you need to function when you make this certain income level. Again, guys, it got incepted and is still infused into society to this day. And I want to say this too, guys. Convenience became the enemy here in America. And across the globe, across the Western world. Convenience became the problem. Why? Because we started to have little convenience stores pop up. We started to have these little prepackaged items in a machine. You put a quarter in, and something circles out, and it's like a sandwich or something. Convenience started at this time period. Swanson became a thing because they were making TV dinners. I forgot about that. Which were good, by the way, back in the day. I can't believe I said that. Which were good, by the way, but TV dinners became a thing. Why, guys? Once, let's say, the husband came home from work, he didn't have a lot of time to spend with the kids, so we might as well just have a whole dinner. And especially when the TV came about, Zenith and a few other TV makers started making TVs. What the family started doing, they moved away from the kitchen table and moved it from the TV. And again, guys, the sedentary lifestyle began. And like I said, guys, you've been eating all day, and now you're eating some more at dinner time. Then you go to bed by 7, 8 o'clock. That food has not digested, and you're going to bed. Again, guys, this is the downside of industry. This is the downside of consumerism. And like I said, guys, convenience is the enemy. Why? The 1960s, drive-thrus started up. Here in San Diego, Jack in the Box, half the first drive-thru in U.S. history. Shout out to San Diego. But it started the megaphone that we order in today was started here in Jack in the Box in San Diego. McDonald's came on the scene in L.A. the 1950s. They really revolutionized the industry system. They took what Henry Ford did back in the 1910s and did the same factory production at McDonald's, where they were churning out burgers almost every second of the day. What else became convenient at that time? I think In-N-Out Burger started. I'm trying to think of, White Castle started up on the East Coast. A few other chicken joints started to show up here and there. KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken showed up. And again, guys, they used the technology of the drive-thru to get people to make the food experience more efficient, meaning you don't have to be in the kitchen anymore to make dinner, guys. Just come from work, circle right around to that line, go through drive-thru, don't go inside anymore. Make your way through the megaphone, make your order, pay the attendant, and you have your whole entire, let's say, 10-piece dinner, and all the sides, all the fixing desserts, let's say for $5.99. I'm not sure how much it was back in the day, but I know it was cheaper than what it is today. So again, guys, the inception of fast food really took what they were selling back in the post-World War II era of this perfect family sitting down at the kitchen table. TV brought this idea in more convenience by sitting at around the TV with trays. What were those things called? Because we used to have them when we were kids too. Everyone had like a little certain a separate tray. Write down in the comments. I can't remember the name them things are, but anyway, like a TV stand tray. And you put your Swanson food on top, and you gobble it down while watching TV. Again, guys, your mind is not really telling you that you're eating. You're just eating and gobbling things up. And like I said, guys, they took that idea and put it into the drive-through and made it more convenient to where people don't have to cook anymore at home. They can just go to their a drive-through, their favorite drive-through in town, order, go home, and then boom, set up the TV, set up all the trays, and put the food out, and the kids eat it, and you eat it. So again, guys, this is how this became the problem. And again, they sold it so people could think, this is a mobility of a middle-class person, and this is how I need to keep up with the Joneses, meaning your next-door neighbors, these people in the ads, the actors that were coming about around that time. They were doing commercials for these stuff too. And again, guys, this stuff is, again, so sleek and sexily done that people don't understand. The human mind computes it as I'm rich, I'm wealthy, I'm moving up in life, I'm becoming somebody if I have the latest whatever or the most efficient whatever. And this, again, guys, this is how this began. And like I said, guys, these patterns still plague current culture. What do I mean by that? I thought of some really fun examples. I'm going to do them. Why not? We're going to have fun today. Fun examples of convenience. Eat like a king. I believe you guys think, I always think of Burger King when I think of that. Burger King's concept came, I want to say it's a British one, but I think it's an American corporation. But when they showed the commercials, I remember this from back in the 80s as growing up as a kid, the Burger King guy would sit on a commercial and he would just have all this food sitting around him. And, he would have like a scepter in one hand and a burger in the other hand. And he would, like I said, have all these fries and desserts and salads. And again, guys, it appealed to people, and it also gave the people the notion that they could have it their way. So why not go to Burger King and eat like a king? Why not order everything from the menu? And, once you come home, you unpack everything, and it gives you this sense of living like royalty, right? But you're not really royal. It's like this American royalty, let's just say that. So what does that mean, guys? When you order all that food, you eat like a king, let's say you have your own feast, you're overfeeding your body. You're giving your body all this junk, all because you want to show that you live like a king. You bought all this stuff for, let's say, $12.99 or $13.99 or $20.99, and now you're feasting like a king. Well, guys, feasting like a king, you come with king problems, meaning type 2 diabetes rolls up. Another one that likes to say hello when you eat like a king, gout, inflammation, swelling in the joints, that says hello. Acne starts saying hello, especially when we start getting into sodas. I forgot about those guys. The soda production guys started around that time too. Actually, no. Sodas, Coke started off as actually a medicinal drink back in the 19-teens, but after World War II, they turned it into what it is today. Sorry, that's a side note, guys. So again, eat like a king comes kingly diseases, high blood pressure, hypertension starts up, clogged artery start up, stroke start up. Who else comes by to say hi? A host of other, things in the body likes to say hi. Why? Because we are feeding it the worst fuel that it can find. And what the body does, like I always said in my last episode, is it tolerates it. But your body can only tolerate it so long before it starts giving you the signs, which is everything we just talked about. So again, guys, this is, again, how all this programming got incepted. Another thing that started up around post World War II and post Boomer generation. All you can eat, $12.99. All you can eat, $12.99 buffet. Guys, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I forgot to say that. So we went from fast food, and now we're getting into the buffet system, meaning you can just drive to a buffet, start at 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever time you get to go there, graze on breakfast. You might go to work, come back, you graze for lunch. Let's say you might stick around, or some people just stick around when they didn't have any work, or you went back to work and you came back for dinner. Guys, this is the problem. Buffets really did start the problem here, especially in America. The other countries don't really have, but the buffet system is just gluttony beyond the word. I don't know what to say about buffets. The buffets are interesting. Back in the day, it was $6.99, $7.99, $8.99, $9.99, and it is what it is today. But people were just thinking, well, why not just shove up $6.99, all I can eat. Eat like a royal, eat like a king, eat like a queen, have all this food readily available. I don't have to do it. Someone else just replenishes when I'm ready to go. So again, guys, that is another major problem here in the United States. Another thing that came up was hot glazed donuts, $2.99. Especially when I was a kid, with what's that company called? It wasn't Cinnabon. It was the other donut king. But anyway, they would Krispy Kreme. They would turn on the sign, especially in the morning time where people were going to work, and they would just flash that hot donut sign, and of course everyone would just turn in and go get some hot glazed donuts. Again, guys, this became a problem in the United States. I was a teenager when we started eating Krispy Kreme, but I was so active. Anyway, I shouldn't have did it, but I did. I mean, it's tantalizing when that sign came on. But again, guys, this is how they got people to come into these different places. Again, if you're strapped and you don't have any food with you, might as well go to Krispy Kreme and boom, you got 12 dozen or 24 dozen donuts for $2.99. And then people eat that stuff going to work, and they might share it with their coworkers. And then again, guys, $29.99 fried chicken meal, whole family. We'll even throw in the buttermilk biscuits for free. Again, guys, places like KFC started up. Places like what's it called? I'm trying to think of these chicken shacks. What chicken shack you guys think of started up? And they started to really sell these chicken for cheap at first. $21.99 is a little pricey because it is today, but back in the day, I remember it used to be $7.99 or maybe $6.99 back in the 80s. But yeah, you can feed your whole entire family with that, with like a couple dollars. Again, guys, this is just people getting by and just surviving on what they can, especially if people were losing the American dream and they were not getting paid as much as someone else. This is what they had to survive on. So it was good and bad with it, guys, but when you start thinking about all the bad stuff that they, let's say, quote unquote, give you for free, it's really terrible. And then let's say they throw in, I remember this from back in the 80s, they used to throw in Mountain Mike's Pizza and a few Round Table Pizza. I remember that in California. Round Table Pizza too. And Domino's and Caesar Pizza. That was another thing hot back in the day. They would throw in like a liter or two of Coke. It's just like, again, guys, more American industry. They were trying to sell us stuff and it worked. Yeah, we threw in the dessert. And then also, guys, I want to say this too. I'm clocking almost 50. I can't talk as much. The system even further ingrained, having food readily available. Hotels got in on it. They said, free breakfast buffet, $29.99 with your room. And it worked. I mean, who wouldn't pay $30 to have a free breakfast buffet, right? So again, guys, this is how industry starts selling these items to us. And of course, they start having these commercials where they see these slender celebrities. But in actuality, that's not who's eating that kind of breakfast. Again, I work as a flight attendant, guys, and I see this every day over the time I've worked as a flight attendant, when I did go downstairs to, like, say, get fruit or something like that, people were just down there grazing with the kids, and they were not looking like those actors and models on TV. But, they sold people that dream that you pay $30, let's just say, have a free breakfast buffet, but it's not really free, because guess what? It's included in your ticket price. I always like to put that out there too. And throwing it all together, guys, what am I trying to say with this? It's all making us sick. Like I said, guys, you wake up. They trained us, when you wake up, don't waste time, get up and start making breakfast, start eating, start pounding in the food. And then you have a snack, and then you have lunch, you have another snack, maybe another snack, and then you come home and have dinner, or you go to the bar, you go to Kentucky Fried Chicken, you go wherever to have dinner. And it didn't stop there, guys. Especially moving into the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, they started to have things open 24/7, meaning that people could have late night cravings, get in the car, go roll over to McDonald's or wherever and pick up dessert, already hot, already pre-made for them, like a hot fudge brownie, hot apple pies, 2-for-1 apple pies. Again, guys, this stuff is not by accident. It was incepted on us. It was pushed on us. And like I said, guys, it was done in such a sleek, subtle way that, again, people didn't really realize it, only because the human psyche, likes to believe in idealism, likes to believe in illusions. It likes to believe in lies. And when you start to look at, oh, I can be that, I can look like that, and then that's where the human psyche starts to take over in the mind, and then you start to download everything into the body, and now the body is trained wholeheartedly to give you the cravings to eat all freaking day. And we're not supposed to eat all day. We talked about this in previous episodes. And yeah, it was. I always say this, guys. I like to keep things honest in the show. There are people watching the show or the series, and they're probably like, well, Al, 5 years ago, you were eating all this stuff too. And I would say, yes, I was. I was led down the wrong path, and I'm not blaming anyone for this path work, but I too was, under the impression that, I made a certain amount of money, this is how I need to eat. Like, for example, when I first started with the company, flying, I believe my salary was like, 30 grand a year, and then it kept going up from there. And every time I got a raise, I was under that illusion of, let's say, quote unquote, upward mobility, to where I was buying steaks. I was buying New York strip steaks. I was buying ribeye steaks for myself. I was eating fried chicken a lot. I was rolling around to different restaurants with people. I was, trying to be like this food guru. I was eating, what's it called? Lobster rolls, and I was having the butter with it. I was also having these twice baked potatoes with, all this fully loaded with bacon and cheese and on it. What else was I having? Escargot. That was a great thing when I went to Paris. What's it called? I did shepherd pies out there in England, fish and chips. You name it, I was eating it. I was also having desserts too, because I was under the impression that you had to have dessert after these big meals. And I want to say this to you guys. The reason why I worked this into the episode is because I want you guys to understand is, we are humans, and we do have, the spiritual being inside of us. But when we start to become aware of what we're doing, we're just not being unconscious anymore about our lives. Then we can start making the decision that this is not the right way to go about it. And that's the reason why I'm bringing up all this evidence to everyone today, is because I want you to understand is, yes, my food journey has not been the best, but I didn't just say, well, oh well, I'm just gonna die, eventually, and just keep going with it, guys. That's the worst mindset to have. Yes, we are eventually all going to expire, but why would you want a traumatic death? Why would you want to suffer a heart attack? Why would you want to suffer a stroke? Why would you want to suffer a long dying death of liver, a fatty liver, or having kidneys? You guys, all because you chose not to be aware of your diet, or you chose to still believe in, your income dictates how you eat. You allow your culture to dictate to you how you eat as well, meaning you're eating your cultural foods all the time, and not exploring other cuisines. What else? Or you believe in the American system to where you have to, buy into industry products. You have to have sodas and Diet Cokes to make yourself feel better. You have to have a dessert after every meal, or breakfast, which is really weird. We have breakfast in the morning. I mean, we have dessert in the morning on our morning flights, which is really weird for people. But what am I trying to say, guys? This was me up until, I would say, 2024. No, 2023. I started to change my diet. It was a slow process at first. I started with beef. That was a main thing in my life that I had to let go of, only because um, when I did my blood work, just my yearly checkup, my doctor noticed that my arteries were clogging up a little bit, and he was just like, Al, there's some plaque there. He's just like, not telling you what to do, but he's just like, you should find a way to, tweak your diet. And then before that, I had high blood pressure. So throw it all together, guys. My body was, I wouldn't say breaking down, but it was starting to, meaning that I was, for the last 30 years, let's just say that my body had just been tolerating things. And by the time I turned 40, my body was just tired of tolerating. It was starting to deteriorate and break down into this industrial body that we're talking about. And that's the reason why I could talk about it today, guys, because I experienced it. And like I said, I woke up to the real mindset and the awareness through reading different books and really learning about the severity of high blood pressure and clogged arteries, what it can lead to. And it doesn't have to be that way. Like I said, guys, none of this has to be that way. And then also want to say this too, guys. Sodas. Soda became a problem. Soda is a problem. They sell sodas as healthy, with like Diet Cokes, Coke Zero, Sprite Zero, Mountain Dew, Diet Mountain Dew, Diet Cherry Cola, Dr. Pepper, Light Dr. Pepper, Mr. Pibb, Light Mr. Pibb. Guys, it doesn't matter. I'm here to kill you guys this today. It doesn't matter what that can says. When you look at the chemical breakdown of those drinks, it has nothing to do with water. It's a small part of water, but it's a ton of chemicals ahead of the water. And the way they sold this was through like these really sexy commercials. I remember this from my commercial print days. My sisters will probably remember this. They would have like this little girl like just sweating. She was like, "Oh, let's beat the heat with this cherry cola," and then they just to get a break from whatever they were doing. Let's say a Pepsi commercial, they just chug it down. And all of a sudden, it feels so good, and that's how they initially sold it. And then with Pepsi, if you guys remember this back in the day, models like Cindy Crawford and other people would allegedly drink it. They really wouldn't drink it. They didn't drink that stuff. But it was the illusion, guys, again, of being sexy, looking like this model. Look at this person, look glamorous, let's have the same product too, guys. And again, it's more programming. So that was a shout out to my former past. Me and my sister did a lot of commercial print and a few commercials back in the day, a long time ago. So that was one of the commercials I remember we were trying out for. That's why I got that little girl, beat the heat. She did it really funny. Anyway, let me get back to it. Um, Especially with kids, ice cream cones, 69 cents. I remember that back in the day. 10 cents extra scoop. Hot dogs became a regular thing too. $1 for hot dogs for kids and adults too. Dollar menus started at these different restaurants, fast food restaurants. I remember pulling into Taco Bell back in the day, 69 cent, 59 cent burritos, bean and cheese. We would pull into Jack in the Box back in the 2000s, get for 2 for 1 tacos after a night of partying. McDonald's had a really great dollar menu for a while. So again, guys, if people were strapped for cash, these companies, played on the people who didn't have the money, and they started to really infuse terrible food in people's diets, all because it was only $1 or less than $1. And again, guys, the glamour always sells in TV. I forgot about that. Glamour always sells. And that's how, again, these people start infusing things into our lives through actors, models, hot models, male and female models too, commercials, TV ads, posters. Now it's on the internet. They'll pay someone to make it look hot, sexy, and sleek. And again, guys, it's still the same playbook, but just different people and different ways of getting the information out. And again, guys, you got to be, I would suggest being smarter and more aware of the who's, how's, what's, when's, and where's all of these programming came from. And again, guys, this all works. And then also into this too, guys, I was talking to my sister about this. And this is a really bad cultural habit, especially in the patriarchal societies of the Western worlds, where, let's say back in the day or even now, the wife stays home with the kids. She's the housewife, and, he's out all day working, allegedly working. He comes home, she has a cocktail and dinner waiting on him. And because of all the work that he's done for the family, she gives him an extra portion of food. Or she gives the son an extra portion of food. Well, guys, I'm here to say this too. I'm not blaming women, guys. I'm just saying that this cultural thing of giving men more food somehow became a staple in a lot of cultures, especially, like I said, with the men. Women like to overfeed us. I don't know why. But okay, guys, if you're a mother, a wife, stop feeding your sons and your husbands all this food. We don't need that kind of food to survive. A long time ago, like I said, guys, during our nomadic past, yeah, hunting parties, we were out all day. Yeah, maybe we needed that extra ounce of food or extra ounce of whatever. But in this modern day, guys, we're not hunting. We're not going out there like we used to. We're going to an office and sitting down like we just talked about. Or, people are doing some other job. But it doesn't require that much kind of food. So if you guys are out there doing that, try to stop doing that. Especially just try to tell your men that you don't need that much food. You don't need that much protein, especially when they're not working out, guys. They're just going from work to home, work to home, work to home. Don't give your men extra food, guys. We don't need it. I'm going to say that too. Or try to tell them they don't need it. Because a lot of time, men will listen to their wives. And if you guys are, giving them everything that their hearts desire, they're going to keep doing it. But again, guys, women, you're very smart. If you want your husbands to change their lifestyle, guess what? You're the one that's going to have to influence it if they don't have it already for themselves. Again, you're the ones that they listen to. So if you guys want a more fit husband, it's time for you to start making the changes. You're the one making the food, potentially. Men do cook these days too, but in a lot of cultures, especially black and brown cultures, women still, run the household. Let's just say that. So again, guys, stop giving your man an extra portion of food. Make better choices for him. He'll make better choices for himself. And start educating your family, guys, if you're out there. Start educating your families about all this food and how it went down. So That is all I have to say. I can't believe I talked for an hour and 13 minutes. I wasn't expecting that. Well, guys, that is the show. That's the evidence how we got to this point up until 2026. We went through a few decades. We started with the Industrial Revolution back in the 1760s. We went through the 1800s, the peak of it, and then we went to the Gilded Age. We went into the 1920s. We talked about mercantilism. We talked about the corporate system here in America, capitalism, the Great Depression, and how World War II affected society after the men came back from war, and how this American consumerism started. It was done through advertising in a very sleek, sexy way to give people an illusion of upward mobility, a richer life, a more decadent life. And they did it through food. They did it through consuming more, having more, buying more, buy. That is how we started with the sedentary lifestyle. If you guys have noticed during this whole entire time, I didn't talk about gyms or anything like that, only because gyms didn't really come into play until the late 1960s into the 70s. But that was only for a select few, especially like people like Arnold and a few other, what's it called, bodybuilders out there. Goals, he was a bodybuilder too. So again, guys, gyms didn't have the same industrial effect as food and clothing did to people, which is again another understated, industry in our cultures, is that we don't value physical fitness like we used to. And then when I was leaving school back in 1997, 98, I remember they were taking out PE in a lot of the schools in California. So again, guys, that's why I built so much evidence on what we just talked about, only to show you guys physical fitness was not a big ticket item. It still is not. Well, it's changing a little bit, but still there's a lot of debate around it. And I'm hoping that gives the jury the evidence, the who's, what's, when, where's, and why's, and how we got to this system today. So guys, that's all I have to say. I'm clocking over hour 16. So again, like, share the comments down below. You guys are very silent out there. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm still talking, still gonna share what I know. And that is what we all have from, let's say, the prosecution. We are going to take another recess, and I'll be back to explain the industrial body and what all the effects of that 3.0 diet of the Industrial Revolution gifted to people in this modern industrial world, this consumer world. I say that because there's more consumerism than industrial now. We've moved on from that. So again, guys, this is the evidence. Review the evidence, comment down below, and possibly maybe even see where you're at. Are you more nomadic, or are you currently more industrial? So that's something you guys can take home for homework, to jot down in your food journals, jot down in your fitness journals, your fitness journey, and be honest, guys, about yourselves. When you keep lying to yourself, you're not going to evolve. You're going to stay where you're at. So again, guys, if you have a fitness journal, a wellness journey, decide where you're at. If you want to make changes, write that down too. That's also great. That's all I have for you. Excuse me. That's all I have for everyone today. And I'll come back with more information. I can't believe I talked this long. Again, guys, always stay curious about yourselves and be curious about other people. And have a great day, all you beautiful beings out there. Thank you.